This is a review video on how to simplify square root. So this is a topic that's typically covered in Algebra 1, but we need it for what we're going to do with complex numbers, so let's review. So the problems that we're going to do are pretty straightforward. It's just going to say simplify, and you'll have a problem like this: simplify square root of 80. And here's the basic rule when you simplify square roots. What you do is you find two numbers that multiply to 80, but one has to be a perfect square. So find two numbers. That multiply to 80. With one of them being a perfect square. Uh-oh, I misspelled being. One being a perfect square. So in that case, the square root of 80, there's two different ways to do this. One way would be that square root of 80, obviously 80 you can divide up into 4 and 20, and 4 is a perfect square. So that's square root of 4 times square root of 20. Square root of 4 is 2, so then that's going to be 2 square root of 20. But now, if you notice, square root of 20 is, you can also simplify. So what you're going to do is you're going to keep going, if you can. So square root of 20 you can still simplify into 4 and 5. So that's going to be 2 square root of 4 square root of 5. Square root of 2 is 2. Now here we have a 2 on the outside, another 2. What do we do with those two? We're going to multiply them, so your final answer is going to be 4 square root of 5. And that's your final answer. What I wanted to remind you of is that you could do it a different way as well. Square root of 80 also breaks down into 16 and 5. I'll use my calculator to make sure there. If you're not sure if 16 goes into 80, all you do is you simply go 80 divided by 16. And if you get a whole number, then it does. And it is. It's 16 times 5. So then we break this down into square root of 16 and square root of 5. Square root of 16 is 4, so you have 4 root 5. And that's your final answer. One important trick to this is you have to memorize your perfect squares. And if you memorize your perfect squares, then this will be much easier than if you don't. So I'm going to draw a memorized guy here. Anytime I give lecture notes and I draw this guy, that means you want to memorize this. So 1 squared is 1. That doesn't help you much. But 2 squared is 4. 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is 25. 6 squared is 36. 7 squared is 49. 8 squared is 64. 9 squared is 81. 10 squared is 100. 11 squared is 121. 12 squared is 144. 13 squared is 169. And that's probably enough for now. So what you're going to do anytime you simplify a square root, what you're going to try to do is you're going to try to find one of these numbers that go into whichever number you're looking at. And that's how you simplify square roots. Let's do some more examples. So as an example, let's do simplify. Let's do square root of, let's do 240. So 240 is a little bit hard. Now, obviously 240 can be 8 times 30, right? But the problem is, with 8 times 30 is neither one is a perfect square. Similarly, it's 24 times 10, but neither 24 times 10 is a perfect square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these numbers here, and I'm going to see which one goes evenly into 240. So I think that it is 16. So the way that I figure that out is I haven't memorized that, so I'm going to go 240 divided by 16. And if I get an integer, that is a whole number, then I know that I've done it correctly. So let's see, 240 is 16 times 15. So 240 is square root of 16 times square root of 15. Now, recognize that I don't have to do this in my head, right? Square root of 240, all I have to do is I have to look at all the perfect squares and see which one works. So, for example, if I thought that 225 worked, I would go 240 divided by 25, that's 89, oh, sorry, I did that wrong. 240 divided by 25, it comes out a decimal, so that doesn't work. 240 divided by 16, it does. So then I have square root of 16 times square root of 15. Square root of 16 is 4. So my final answer is 4 square root of 15. Another way of doing that problem would be square root of 240, break it up into 4 and 60, right? 4 times 6 is 24, 4 times 60 is 240, so that works. And then I get 2 root 60. So that's fine, right? The only difference of doing it this way is square root of 60, I have to keep going. So I think that 4 goes into 60 again. I'm not sure, so I go 60 divided by 4. If I get a decimal, it won't. It is, let's see, 60 divided by 4 is 15, so that does work. So I'll break this up into 4 and 15. Then I have 2 square root of 4, square root of 15. Square root of 4 is 2, so that's 2 times 2 square root of 15, or 4 root 15. If you notice, I get the same answer either way. And that's how you simplify square roots. Let's do one more example. And let's do this. Let's do square root of 450. And the reason I chose such a large numbers, that's not a lot of these you can do in your head, but you can't do all of them in your head. So what am I going to do? How am I going to start with 450, right? Well, the first thing I do is think about my rules. My rules is that I find two numbers, right? And this find two numbers that multiply to 80. In this case, I want to find two numbers that multiply to 450, but one has to be a perfect square. So 450 is 45 times 10, but that doesn't help me because 45 is not a perfect square and 10 is not a perfect square. So I need to look at all of these perfect squares here and see which one goes into 450. And I could first try, I can try any number I want to. It turns out that the larger number that I try, the better. So let me try 450 times 16. 450 divided by 16 is, nope. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plug these numbers in and see which one gives me a perfect square. So 16 doesn't work. I bet 4 works. So 450 divided by 4, actually 4 doesn't. So let's try 25. Now if I notice, see how this ends in the zeros to a 25 might in fact work. So you have 450 divided by 25 and I get 18. So that actually does work. So 25 and 18. That's square root of 25, square root of 18. Now square root of 18 is 5. So my answer is 5 square root of 18. Now this is correct. I'm not quite done though. I still have to simplify square root of 18 if I can. So let's think about that. Let's look at our perfect squares and see if any of them are a multiple of multiply to 18. Let's see, 4 does, 9 does. So 18 is 9 and 2. So square root of 9, square root of 2. 5, square root of 9, square root of 2. Square root of 9 is 3, so that's 5, 3, square root of 2. And if it's square root, you have two numbers on the outside, so you multiply those two together, your final answer is 15 square root of 2. And that's how you simplify square roots. In the next video, we go through a couple more examples, and then you'll be done with reviewing.